Monday morning already. Now, Countdown presenter Rachel Riley has told this programme she's had to block over 1,500 people on Twitter because of the amount of anti-Semitic abuse she receives. Today, a group of politicians, actors and TV presenters are calling on other public figures to stop engaging with online trolls in an attempt to stamp out cyber hate. Among those making the plea are Gary Lineker, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, and Richard Osman. They've endorsed a new guide on how to combat online abuse. Published by the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, it advises people not to engage with any form of abuse and instead block and, if necessary, report those guilty of it. Rachel Riley has received tweets like these. Hopefully, one day Israel pays Rachel enough that she can retire in a stolen apartment on the Gaza Strip. And there's some strong language coming for the next one. How on earth am I supposed to call Rachel Riley a TWAT now that she's blocked me? And there's this one. Does the State of Israel pay you per tweet? Do they have any rules, or can you make any old leap and cobble together anything as long as it's anti-Corbyn? But does the decision not to engage with tweets like this allow online trolls to spread hate and misinformation unchallenged? Let's talk to Rachel Riley and also Imran Ahmed, CEO of Countering Digital Hate. Welcome, both of you. Thank you for coming on the programme. You've had to block, you say, over 1,500 people on Twitter. Yeah. Why?
Well, I'm, a woman in the public eye, so I was used to trolling from being a woman or being a football fan, and I was used to ignoring the trolls because I knew that those kind of trolls were just after attention. But I didn't realise when I accidentally kind of stepped into the realm of political trolling with anti-Semitism, that is what the trolls are exactly the same. That's what they're after. They're after publicity, and they purposely target public figures to try and get some of our followers to read their doctrine, basically. If a public figure has, say, 500,000 followers and you retweet someone and 95% of your followers say, this is appalling, this is disgusting, this is racist, this is horrible, that's 5% or 25,000 people that you are exposing to a racist. And I don't want to do that. So I've got no need to see what these people are writing. If someone said that to me in the street, I'd walk away from them. So there's no reason why I should get it when I'm at home with my cats or husband or whatever I'm doing.
Sure. And we gave an example of some of the abuse you have received, but it's across a whole spectrum, isn't it? Just give our audience an idea.
I mean, you have to laugh to diffuse it, because part of this paper says that, being a victim breeds more victimhood. They will attack you more. But I've had all sorts. I've had people denying my Jewish heritage, saying that my dead granddad would be disgusted by me. I've been compared to Abu Hamza, a prettier version of Abu Hamza, a Nazi, a white supremacist, paedophile enabler. I mean, you name it. These people are saying it. And I don't need to give them any oxygen. It's pointless.
How are you able to laugh about it? It can't always have been like that.
No. I mean, in the early days, so from September to Christmas, I was kind of tweeting by myself and trying to respond to everyone that contacted me. So I thought education, I was quite naive, I thought education was the key.
You thought you could convert people?
I just thought education. I realised very early on that there are a very small fringe extremists that you're not going to convert, but I was trying to speak to the silent majority. And when and I spent 4 months educating myself. I took an anti-Semitism course online, Yad Vashem, 6-week course. I read stuff, I spoke to experts, I went to Jewish groups, I spoke to counter-extremists, I spoke to everyone I could speak to. And in January, I was ready to go public, and I went on the Christian Guru Murphy podcast. And at that point, the week leading up to that, before it had even gone out, it was like a switch was flicked and the trolling was stepped up a gear. And I now know through research with CCDH and with CST that they've done analysis that it's a very, very small number of accounts that drive a lot of hate, and it's strategic and it's tactical. And Imran at CCDH, they've even found far-right handbooks. There are literally troll playbooks that tell them how to gain followers, how to spread their messaging, and it's through hordes of people attacking people with profiles. So it's so important that we don't let them. I don't want to help them. My aim in this is to shed light, try to educate, try to inoculate the masses with the truth, because I think that's ultimately the truth will inoculate and stop hate. But I don't want to accidentally help these people in the process.
You first came across a campaign called the Boycott Rachel Riley campaign when you learned you were pregnant. What effect did that have on you?
It really focused me to realise that blocking people isn't weak. It's actually strong, because it's human instinct to defend yourself. But, you know, since being pregnant, anyone who's been there will know, you have a bit of sugar and your baby starts wriggling straight away. You're in a great mood all day, your baby's kicking you and having a great time. I had a stressful weekend on social media and my baby went quiet for a couple of days, and that made me realise, however mentally strong I am, there's a reaction, there's a fight or flight, there's adrenaline, there's hormones that go through your body, and now I'm sharing them. Absolutely don't need to give that to my baby by any stretch. There's just no cause for it.
Imran, what sort of people are trolls?
Well, there are a number of different types of trolls, and we see both individuals who are motivated by a desire to cause pain. They take pleasure in it, in causing pain to other people. But there are also highly organised networks of people who share a hateful ideology, whether it be racist or religious intolerance, homophobia or misogyny. And they use trolling as a tactic, as a way of exposing more people to their hate. And as Rachel says, what they do is they deliberately use really horrid terms, really personal abuse to people to get them to react and therefore to amplify them. And Rachel beautifully illustrated the mathematics behind that and how it works.
This advice now to block people rather than try and engage with them or educate them, as you were suggesting, Rachel, or retweet them, definitely not. That has got to stop because, as you say, it gives them more publicity.
Well, I mean, we can go through the technical aspects of it, and it's complicated and it's in the report. And we're absolutely certain that what they're looking for is a reaction of any kind because it boosts their numbers.
Well, what you say, actually, is defending yourself online is a trap.
It's absolutely a trap. And I think of it in the way that my mum used to say to me, if you've got an itch, don't scratch it or you'll spread it. And it is really, it's a disease in society that we're actually constantly scratching, allowing it to spread. And that's what's driving the increase in hateful ideas and hateful speech in this attitude of that sort of is exemplified by the kind of nastiness that we see in politics today.
But if someone's having malicious gossip spread about them or untruths, then you've got to call that out, surely. Go on.
Well, the way I interact now, if I see something awful and I do want to highlight it, I'll screen grab it and I will redact their handle, so I'll just block it out, and I can still use that and I can still make my argument, but I'm not legitimising their conversation by giving them a right to reply. Because if it's racist and hideous, why do I want to amplify their message? Why do I want to give them? But I'm countering it. So when I say this is what people are saying, there is a problem out there, this is why it's wrong, and I'm putting my message across. So I'm still trying to do that without actually giving that person a platform.
To be very specific, there is a direct effect if you interact with their accounts. So if you're quote tweeting or retweeting or responding back, it not just gives people, it broadcasts their stuff so they can click through and see more from that person. But there's also a gaming effect on the algorithms that underlie the social media platforms, and it pushes up those tweets in relevance, so more people are exposed to it, whether they're following them or not.
Right, so activity is boosted in a way. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely,
yeah.
And that's how the tech companies make their money, is by finding the most engaging content, the stuff that's getting the most eyeballs on it, and then boosting that up, because that's in their economic interests.
Sean tweets this. I'm not sure about this approach, but isn't it censorship and hiding reality? Surely shaming is the best way to deal with it, but you're saying not.
Absolutely not. So they have a right to free speech.
Yeah.
They have a right to hold their disgusting opinions. But we have no duty to hand them a megaphone and to allow them to broadcast it to even more people.
Okay.
And actually, by blocking them, all we're saying is we don't want to have to listen to it ourselves as individuals. We don't want to have to listen to hate being targeted at us. There is no duty for any individual to suffer the anxiety and really the pain of being abused based on their identity or for any reason whatsoever.
It is counterintuitive though, because I used to retweet it when I saw something awful and just assume, and most people do object and see how awful it is, but I didn't realise that I was accidentally spreading their message. So now I don't, now I do block, and like I say, the screen grabbing is much better for me because it's just, 1,500 people blocked sounds like a large number, but it's a tiny amount of people that are driving this, and that's cut it out. I've changed my settings, and my mental health is a lot better, and my baby's a lot happier. So,
seriously, your mental health is a lot better. What's the difference then? Because that is really interesting.
yeah, I mean, this, social media now, it means that anybody can contact you when you're getting out of bed, when you're going to bed, when you're carrying on about your life. And it's targeted. They have, WhatsApp groups where they decide what they want to talk about or who they want to target that day. And if you make a message, if you do a post and you get 50 angry people telling you that you're an idiot, that you're wrong, it has an effect on you. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to use a small number of people, most of the time anonymous people, anonymous accounts, to change you, to change the way you act, change the way you speak, and it does provoke reactions that aren't necessarily that helpful. So this report has totally changed the way I use social media, and it's just so much better.
I want to mention a couple of tweets that you've sent to people. You can tell me whether you think this is trolling or not. In January of this year, you told George Galloway to F off after he criticised you on Twitter. You have used strong language to call out others with whom you disagree. You tweeted this about Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite, pass it on. No matter how you feel about how he's handled anti-Semitism or not in the Labour Party, is that an example of trolling?
So that's an example of my reaction to trolling, because the George Galloway tweet came in the week that the podcast went out. So that came in a week where I'm not sure how many thousands of messages of abuse I got. And at that point, George Galloway, before having even seen what I'd said, added to it. And that was an example of me accidentally amplifying a troll. So I consider him an anti-Semitic troll, and I will no longer interact with him in the slightest. In terms of campaigning against Jeremy Corbyn, I've posted countless bits of evidence, and in the end, people trying to use humour, they're trying to use any way they can to get this message out there, because the Jewish community are very scared. They're worried. People are considering leaving the country, and it's a hugely serious issue.
Do you regret any of those? Or?
I don't regret calling Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite. I'll do it till my dying breath. But I wouldn't react the same way to George Galloway. I'd certainly block him now on the advice of CCDH.
Carolina tweets this: the issue is bigger than feeding or not feeding the trolls. Regulating social media often encounters flack, as it's about what type of abuse counts as freedom of expression for regulators, which is why we need a variety of perspectives to allow for fair regulation. Leighton says the best deterrent would be to employ a team of expert scammers to trace some of these individuals and expose them. They're cowards who depend on anonymity to carry out their despicable behaviour, and they're all traceable with the right skills. Is that the answer ultimately, that the social media companies or the police have to track them down, or is that an impossible job?
Well, I think this particular campaign is because of the failure of our governments, which seem to be busy with their self-inflicted problems, or tech companies, which frankly are economically incentivized to keep the abuse going, to keep the controversy going, because it keeps eyeballs on their networks and therefore ad revenues. And we're saying that as society, we can step in and make a difference right now. So this is about what all of us can do straight away, which is to say that if we do see hate online, we will ostracize it. We'll block it from our view, and we won't actually reward it by giving them what they seek, which is either the pleasure of seeing us in pain or having their message rebroadcast. And I think it's fantastic that people like Rachel and Gary Lineker and others have picked up on this and said, well, yeah, some of our past behaviours, or one tweet here, one tweet there, might not have been the right approach.
And this advice works for everyone, do you believe? Is that what you're saying?
I think we in society, all of us have a duty, a responsibility to use this. And it's the same advice that Jessie from Little Mix has been given to her followers, which is to ignore it, to block it, and then to take some time out for yourself.
Neville tweets this: while it's very wrong, the abuse that Rachel receives is not only high-profile people who get abuse.
Absolutely.
Because I want a people's vote, says Neville, on Brexit, I've had to block over 200 people on Twitter because of the abuse I've received. Dave used to be a troll. He emails, he says, 15 to 20 years ago, I was a troll. I was trolling pretty much everyone I didn't like, but people started ignoring me. It got boring and not funny anymore, plus very hurtful to them. Now I have matured, and I don't do social media and still regret my behaviour.
Well done, Dave.
And Brian says, trolls are sad little people who have too much time on their hands and need to get a job. Don't acknowledge them, it just gives them oxygen. Am I allowed to ask a Strictly question finally, or would you rather not?
I probably won't know the answer.
No.
You can ask Imran.
I have no idea.
Who do you think is going to win this year?
I don't know who's in it. I don't watch it. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't apologise. That's absolutely fine. Thank you, both of you. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.